This story was sent to me by a cab driver who worked in New York City for over a decade. He'd never believed in anything supernatural until the night he swore something tried to follow him across the bridge. He's in his early 40s, quiet and logical, the kind of guy who prefers night shifts to dodge the daytime chaos. His name is Mike, though he didn't share his last name, probably to keep some distance from the whole thing. Mike's always been a creature of habit, starting his evenings by wiping down the interior of his yellow cab with a rag that smells faintly of lemon cleaner. He checks the tires for pressure, makes sure the meters reset, and logs into the dispatch app on his beat-up smartphone. Then it's off to the bodega on the corner of his block, where the owner, an old Puerto Rican guy named Carlos, pours him a cup of coffee that's been sitting on the burner too long, bitter and black, just the way Mike likes it. He sips it slowly while leaning against the counter, exchanging a few words about the weather or the latest Yankees game. It's a ritual that grounds him before the long hours ahead. Most nights, his passengers are predictable. There are the drunk partygoers, spilling out of bars in the Village or Midtown, giggling and slurring their addresses as they fumble with seatbelts. Then come the airport-runs business types with roller bags, heading to JFK or LaGuardia, often buried in their laptops or barking into phones about delayed flights. And the late shift nurses, the ones who climb in smelling of antiseptic, sharing snippets of their exhausting days at hospitals like Mount Sinai or Bellevue. Mike listens politely, nodding along, but he keeps conversations light. He's not one for deep dives. He's there to drive, not to play therapist. Over the years, he's heard his share of ghost stories from fellow cabbies during downtime at the garage, tales of shadowy figures hailing rides in abandoned lots or passengers who vanish mid-trip. Mike always chuckles, shaking his head. "You guys watch too many horror flicks," he'd say, attributing it all to overactive imaginations fueled by fatigue and city stress. This particular night begins around 2 a.m., when New York starts to wind down from its perpetual frenzy. The streets are eerily silent, the usual cacophony of horns and sirens giving way to a hush broken only by the occasional distant ambulance wail. Walk signs blink their commands to empty crosswalks, casting rhythmic red, and white glows on the pavement. Steam rises lazily from manholes, twisting like ghostly fingers in the cool air, and the skyscrapers stand sentinel, their windows dark except for the odd-lit office, where some insomniac works late. Mike's dashboard clock has been busted for weeks, frozen at 11:47, so he relies on his phone to tell time. Tonight, it makes him start a tad early, pulling out of his spot with a sense of quiet isolation. The city feels like it's holding its breath, a sleeping giant where Mike is one of the few still awake, navigating its veins. As he drives through the Lower East Side, the radio crackles with static before settling into an old jazz station, smooth saxophones, and piano riffs that blend with the hum of his tires on asphalt. Dispatch chatter interrupts occasionally, voices reporting pickups or traffic snags, but it's a slow night. He catches a snippet from a news bulletin, something about a fatal accident on the Williamsburg Bridge just last week. A woman, apparently, plunged from the edge in the dead of night. No witnesses, no clear cause. The report mentions skid marks and an abandoned vehicle, but details are thin. Mike feels a twinge of unease, picturing the bridge's stark cables against the East River, but he dismisses it. Accidents are part of the city's grim rhythm. He's driven past enough crash sites to know better than to dwell. Still, as the miles tick by, that feeling of being watched creeps in. The sidewalks are barren. No late-night dog walkers or stumbling drunks. Just endless rows of shuttered storefronts and apartment buildings with windows like dark, accusatory eyes. He glances in his side mirrors more than usual, half expecting to see someone trailing his taillights. Then comes the dead zone, a stretch of blocks where the world seems to empty out completely. No oncoming cars, no cyclists weaving through lanes, not even the faint buzz of neon signs. The only sound is his engine's steady rumble, amplified in the vacuum. Shadows dance at the edges of his vision, flickering where streetlights meet alleyways. But when he turns his head, there's nothing. His phone, mounted on the dash for GPS, glitches briefly, the screen freezing on a map grid before refreshing. A slight chill seeps into the cab, making him crank the heat, though the vents blow warm air. Mike rubs his eyes, chalking it up to the coffee wearing off, but a low-level paranoia builds, whispering doubts he tries to silence with logic. Just the night playing tricks. He mutters to himself, gripping the wheel tighter. The unease lingers as he nears the Williamsburg Bridge, the silence now so thick it presses against the windows like fog. Up ahead, on the corner where the ramp begins, he spots the memorial, a crooked wooden cross staked into the cracked sidewalk, adorned with wilted bouquets of roses and daisies, their petals scattered by the wind. Photos are pinned to it, faces blurred from recent rain, and a cluster of tea lights flicker weakly, casting elongated shadows. A peculiar mist clings only to that spot, heavy and unmoving despite the breeze off the river, while the rest of the area remains clear. The red light halts him directly beside it, the cab's headlights illuminating the makeshift shrine in stark relief. Mike stares, feeling an inexplicable pull, and that's when the cold pressure hits the sensation of breath on the back of his neck, icy and deliberate. He whips around, but the back seat is empty, just crumpled receipts and an old water bottle. Heart quickening, he checks the rearview mirror, nothing but the glow of the candles. But when his gaze shifts back to the memorial, there she is, a pale woman standing motionless in a tattered old-fashioned dress, perhaps from the 1920s, with lace frayed at the edges and stains like faded blood. Her hair hangs loose and tangled, framing a face with a faint, unsettling smile. Mike blinks rapidly, and she's gone, or maybe repositioned by the candles. He can't tell. His mind races fatigue from pulling doubles last week, a micro nap induced by the monotony, or pent-up stress from bills piling up. The light finally turns green, and he accelerates away, breath shallow, telling himself it was a hallucination, nothing more. Pressing on with his rote, the city begins to feel warped, like a familiar dream turning sour. Streetlights pulse faintly, their flickers sensing unnervingly with his heartbeat, which he can feel thumping in his ears. Stop signs loom larger than they should, edging closer in his periphery as if the roads are narrowing. Mike recalls those driver stories again, the one about a cabbie who picked up a fare that led him in endless circles, or another who swore a passenger's reflection showed no face. He laughs nervously, the sound hollow in the cab, but it doesn't ease the knot in his stomach. As he passes darkened shop windows, he catches glimpses of her reflection, the pale woman mirroring his path, her form gliding smoothly while the street remains empty. He slows to peer directly nothing, just his own distorted face staring back. A subtle scent invades the cab then, old perfume like lavender mixed with decay, lingering for seconds before dissipating into the recycled air. Needing a break, Mike pulls into a 24-hour diner, ordering a fresh coffee. The barista, a young woman with tired eyes, hands it over and pauses. "You okay, man? You look pale as hell, like you've seen a ghost." He forces a smile, mumbles he's fine, and heads back out. In the cab, he notices fresh condensation on the rear window, etched with what looks like a perfect handprint, fingers splayed as if pressing from inside. The engine coughs and stutters when he turns the key, finally roaring to life after several tries. His GPS app malfunctions next, stubbornly rerouting him toward the bridge despite his inputs, looping him in digital circles. Panic edges in, sweat beading on his forehead, but Mike clings to reason, maybe a virus in the phone, or sheer exhaustion warping his perceptions. He breathes deep, focusing on the road, determined not to let the night unravel him. Hours blur, and inexplicably, Mike finds himself back at that same red light, ensnared in a circular path he hadn't noticed forming. The memorial looms again, candles still burning as if tended moments ago. This time, she's perilously close, inches from the passenger door, her pale form radiating an otherworldly chill that seeps through the glass. Her lips remain sealed, but her voice resonates inside his skull, soft yet commanding. "Driver, are you going across the bridge? Give me a ride." Terror surges, primal and instinctive, every fiber screaming against opening the door. His mouth dry, he whispers, "I'm not going that way." She tilts her head, that faint smile unchanging. "Is that so?" Another blink, and she's retreated to the candles, but her presence lingers like static electricity. Time stretches interminably, the red light holds, unyielding, as if the world has paused. Then, the roar of two motorbikes shatters the stasis, their riders pulling up beside him. Desperate, Mike rolls down his window and points. "Do you see her?" "Right there, by the cross." They exchange puzzled glances. Helmet's tilting. "Nah, man, just some flowers and junk." "You good." Humiliation mixes with fear. He slams the accelerator, blasting through the red, tires screeching as he hurtles onto the bridge. In the rearview, she remains, nodding slowly, her eyes black voids that track him unblinkingly across the span. Miles beyond, on the Brooklyn side, his heart races unchecked, a frantic drum beat echoing in his chest. He veers to the roadside, stumbles out, and vomits onto the gravel, hands trembling as he braces against the door. The night air bites, but it clears his head enough to call dispatch. "I'm sick, heading home early." The drive back is a blur, every shadow a potential threat. For days afterward, anomalies plague him, cold spots in his cramped apartment, pockets of frigid air that migrate from room to room without explanation. Glancing out windows, he sees her silhouette under distant streetlights, vanishing upon a prolonged stare. Sleep evades him. He jolts awake at precisely 2:17 a.m. nightly, the exact timestamp etched in his memory from the GPS log. He confides in no one initially, dreading ridicule or psychiatric referrals. Eventually, the weight becomes too much. He emails me the full account, attaching those time-stamped GPS records as irrefutable proof of his whereabouts that fateful night. He hasn't driven a cab since that night, and to this day, no one knows who placed those candles on the curb or who still lights them every night.